Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of MMA Cheat Sheet Live. This is Brandon Arcade, joined over the airwaves by Ridgers 10, and we're touching on UFC 204 this week. First off, actually, I just wanted to do a recap of some of the scoring that came through from last week. I found it very interesting now that we're taking six fighters. Uh, I mean, it it is what it is, I guess. I didn't see too many surprises. I didn't, other than just how grapplers are favored a little more. I saw a couple of scores that ended up in the mid 60s and 70s that you probably would have ended up scoring. I don't know, 45, 44 points, somewhere in there. Did you notice anything specific?
No, I didn't notice really anything that I guess I wasn't expecting. And I think last week the scores didn't seem to be as high as I originally thought they would be, just because of so many underdogs winning. So nothing really out of the ordinary, I guess. I think this week will help tell a little bit more.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I believe all but one underdog actually ended up winning. It makes it really hard to win in DFS when all your value picks come through, but all your guys you saved your money and paid up for decide to shit the bed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going over a couple of numbers here. I see, um, like a guy like Shamil Abdurrahmanov. I talked about him on the podcast where I thought that there was some value there, and he ended up being a good value pick for 7,400. He scored 61 and a half points. Um, the biggest surprise to me, I got the Ion Kudaleba pick right, but the biggest surprise to me was Curtis Blades. I noticed you had a couple of lines on him. I just wasn't buying the hypes, considering he was the first guy coming out of a UFC gym. But I saw that you definitely had him, and he crushed it with 130 points for you.
Yeah, I had a lot of Blades, but I think my biggest shockers of the night were Marquardt was a one for me. I mean, he always has that power, but I didn't really see it happening. And then Alex Oliveira after the weigh-in, I think I mentioned it to you when we talked about it. Was just I think he was fat and happy, and if he wouldn't have been, then maybe the fight goes differently. But
Well, it had a lot to do with that broken rib on that knee.
yeah,
It was a clean knee, so you can't act like there was. I mean, there was no foul play on what injured Will Brooks, but it certainly was the factor. I mean, the guy winced in every position after that. It was just
yep,
it was hard to see a guy like Will Brooks take a loss like that. That was such a shit loss.
agreed, completely agreed. I mean, and what makes it shittier is the fact that the guy doesn't even make weight, and he didn't even try to make weight. So
Yeah, and then he's the one that felt like he was disrespected at weigh-ins. I mean, give me a break.
yeah,
I was
totally agree on that. I mean, that was just a shitty fight from the day the weigh-in started, really.
Yeah. Yeah, my biggest ball dropper was definitely Nate Marquardt. I really thought Tamden McCrory's, it seemed like his fight to win, and then out of nowhere, old man Marquardt acts like he's 28 again.
Right. I mean, he actually looked decent, which I guess he always looks decent, but his chin never holds up. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the biggest shocker of the night was Brandon Moreno. Smolka was like 61.8% owned, and Moreno just totally ran roughshod through a top 10 guy. I mean, it's got to be worse than the Thiago Santos loss the week before. I mean, soul crushing for DFS.
Yeah, definitely. I forgot to mention that one. Yeah, there were so many.
Well, here's a really crappy thing. I don't know if you saw this today in the news, but I just wanted to speak for a second on the passing of Josh Saman. I'm a big fan of his writing, especially his book that he put out. It's a really good read if you guys haven't read it. I believe right now either Kindle or Amazon is giving it away for free digitally. Uh, that's a good read, but it appears that he died of a drug overdose this morning, or at least he's been in a coma for a few days and he finally passed this morning. Uh, really sad stuff. I mean, I made bank off of his head kick knockout over Eric Gordon. Uh, just crazy stuff. Um,
That's
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Prime in the gang, DFS Prime lineups. That's the main source of all this information. If you guys want to come and hang out with us and check out all the good stuff we're doing, lots of good football picks, lots of great playoff baseball. We got hockey coming up where Prime Cash is at a 70% rate. I can't wait to get on board with that. I already got some dummies set for the 12th. Uh, NBA, it's going to be a blast. Uh, don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull that every single day. I'm hoping they give us a couple of days off. But yeah, NBA is here to replace baseball as your daily. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off, I guess. We're gonna start here with the main event. This is kind of a interesting, intriguing, strange, can't believe it's happening sort of matchup. Michael Bisping versus Dan Henderson. Uh, Gosh, what can you say about this fight other than I can't believe it's happening? Number 13, Dan Henderson, fresh off of a crazy back elbow knockout of Hector Lombard, going against the most unlikely champ, Michael Bisping, fresh off of his knockout win over Luke Rockhold after taking a 5-round contentious decision against Anderson Silva. Before that, he beat down Talis Latis. I think there was a CB Dollaway win in there somewhere. Uh, Me personally, I really want to root for Hendo in all fashions, and for his price, I feel like he's the play here. Like this is such a tough card, and you and I have talked about this offline. Like for DFS purposes, this is not the card to make $1 million. As a fan, it's a great card to watch, but overall, I'm not enjoying what I'm seeing here. Apologies for that noise. That was my computer telling me it's not plugged in all the way. Um, what's your take on Bisping versus Hendo here? I'll come back and touch on it after you.
Yeah, as Brandon was saying, this is definitely not a card to go heavy on, guys. They light. There's definitely gonna be action. It's gonna be a fun card to watch, like you said. But yeah, go light. And if I give out percentages, those percentages on maybe 10 lineups, because I definitely won't have high exposure at all to this card myself. So any percentage I put out there, we're gonna say is $10 or 10 lineups. Most of them pretty low money entries. I'm not going big on this one. I'm saving it for 205. But yeah, for this particular fight, oh man, I'm really excited for the fight. I hope Henderson knocks his head through the mat like he did in UFC 100. But I can't see it happening this time. Henderson's way too old. He's in his mid 40s. He moves like a robot. He's too stiff, too slow. He still has the H bomb, which is great to see when it lands. But for me, I think the play here. I think he gets a TKO in the third or fourth round. With that said, my love for Henderson is definitely gonna have him in quite a few GPPs because I think it's the last time you're going to be able to play him. For me, I think I'm throwing money away by playing him, but honestly, my fanboy love is just going to take over. I don't necessarily recommend going heavy on Henderson. I know Brandon may feel like it's a good play. I think we're a little split on this one, but he doesn't throw the volume that he used to, and unless he lands that big punch, I don't see the value even at the price. But that's just my take on it. I'm gonna stick to Bisping as the smart play. If you have the fanboy love like I do, then throw a few GPPs on Endo.
Yeah, it's strange though because I actually don't have the fanboy love. I actually just feel like for a card like this, there's so many favorites that should come through. I feel like that this card is put together to offset what happened last week, where only one favorite won, and all the underdogs crushed all of our hopes and dreams. Every value play came through. Unfortunately, every other value play came through for everyone else. So it was a it was a really difficult way to do it. And I think that this card is built exactly the opposite. I see like the favorites really holding up in almost every fight. Uh, this fight though, I 100% agree. I mean, Bisping should have what it takes finally to be the quicker man, the sharper man, get in, get out, be better conditioned. the first time they fought, you could argue that even though Bisping, was 13-0, he just wasn't ready for that caliber of a fighter. The way Hendo was at UFC 100. Now, like you talked about his old decrepit body, uh, it's almost like Hendo has permanently fused his stance to the H bomb. He's built like the H bomb is the only punch he's gonna throw, and it's kind of strange. I mean, he just keeps that left hand cocked right by the side, and then the right hand's right there, ready to come over the top. But the only reason why I'm big on Henderson is because with all these favorites, he's the one underdog who's in a 5-round fight. And if Bisping really fights like, a point fighting style match, I think over 5 rounds, he could land enough volume, even though he's only throwing one hand. But he could get some takedowns. He could get top position. And it just depends. Realistically, I'm grasping at straws here. Bisping's going to wipe the floor with him exactly like you said, somewhere in the late third to the fourth round. But I just feel like the 5-round potential for a decision there gives Hendo a little bit of value. Uh, Anything else you want to throw on that before we go on to the co-main?
No, I just think it's funny how you mentioned his stance being fused to the H bomb because it's so true right now.
Yeah, it's almost like like you meet an old guy who drives like a trucker for a living, and his back's got like every single disc fused as if he was a trucker for the rest of his life. That's what Dan Henderson's done with the H bomb.
He is not going to be able to walk in 5 years. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's been fun to watch him, and I really hope he walks away after this fight. I really, really do.
Yeah, it's funny. The only guy who doesn't think he's going to retire is Michael Bisping.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bisping fighting towards a point style. I think this is the one fight where I think it's emotional for Bisping, and I really think that Bisping's he's gonna go out there and really try to knock him out because it's personal for him because of what happened at UFC 100.
But
that's what scares me off of that 5-round decision.
But does that leave him vulnerable though? I mean, will Bisping be reckless to replicate what Hendo did to him? I mean, he wants to do it.
For sure. And the question is Henderson fast enough anymore to land that big right? And I guess with Jacare Souza, he proved that he does have a little bit of quickness in there. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's an interesting conundrum for Bisping. Does he play it smarter? Does he let his emotions take over? And if he does let his emotions take over, does Henderson sneak one in there? It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, at 7,100, and the way that this card's shaped, it's just such a strange card pricing wise. No bones were thrown here.
No.
It's going to be really hard to pick 6 guys. I mean, it would be hard to pick 5 guys with the old setup that are going to win, but now you got to pick 6. It's going to be hard. You're going to have some decision losers in there. So if you're going to pick guys that are below the $8,100 mark, I mean, we really got to find the guys who are going to put up volume and a decision loss. Well, with that said, I guess we can move on to the co-main. We got, excuse me, Gegard Mousasi versus I want to say TRT Vitor, but it's not the case. It's just regular Vitor, old man Belfort. Surprisingly, post TRT Vitor still has what it takes to knock Hendo out twice. Yet Hendo's the guy with the title shot. Yeah. I just the UFC's matchmaking these days really. If you try to find logic in it, you're going to give yourself an aneurysm. My take on this fight, honestly, I think that Vitor's got 2 minutes. That's it. The first 2 minutes of this fight is his only chance. Maybe he gets in there and does what he did to Hendo, but Gegard isn't what he was 5 years ago, but he's still a great fighter. He's still a top tier guy in 2 weight classes. More than likely, I see Mousasi overcoming that early storm, putting up the rope-a-dope style guard, and then as soon as Vitor decides to switch from his brawling stance to something where he's going to try to throw a spinning kick, I think Mousasi moves in quick, gets a trip takedown, ends up in either side control or top position, and just ends Vitor quickly. Because if there's one position that Vitor fades in, it's the bottom. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Vitor's a KO or get KO type of fighter, and I just think Mousasi is too smart to fall into that kind of a brawl or even get within Vitor's range. I got Mousasi by TKO here. if you can afford him, he's a good play. But like we've already talked about with the pricing, it's going to be pretty hard to get Mustafi in there.
Yeah. Second highest priced guy at 9,400.
Yeah, and is he a great cash play? Yes, of course, but you're really gonna have to sacrifice a lot of your salary to be able to fit him into a cash lineup. So I'd lean more towards playing him in GPPs, but I think it's a pretty likely win. Vitor for 6,800 though. We were talking about this earlier. I think it's a decent GPP play. He can always land that one big hit. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but shit, I've thought that before with Belfort, and it's happened. So
yeah, and we can't forget Mousasi in the Uriah Hall fight. I know that's a cringer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll definitely for 6,800. You gotta take a couple of Belfort flyers. In no way, shape, or form will I build a lineup where I take a flyer on both Belfort and Henderson, because at their prices, they're both punt plays clearly. But at least Vitor has way more GPP upside than Hendo does.
Yeah, agreed. He can still actually move around and fight a little bit on his speed. I mean, Henderson's just a H bomb. That's it. Vitor still has pretty good movement, and he's still really quick. I mean, a lot of that speed he had as a younger fighter is still there, and he's still a dangerous fighter. So
yeah,
he's definitely got the higher upside.
So for the price, yeah, definitely take some GPPs on Vitor, and if you're torn between Vitor and Hendo for that last spot on your roster, go Vitor, I guess. Especially if you already got Bisping in there, you don't want to take both sides of this one unless we're betting the main slate. On the main slate, I have no problems with taking both sides of the main event because it's going to be impossible to pick, 6 fighters out of that group and expect them all to win. So,
Right.
Yeah, next up we got Ovin St. Preux versus Jimmy Manuwa. To me, Manoa is the best play as a live dog on this card. If he loses, it's going to be in a slugfest, but I still think he scores a bunch of points. And OSP definitely has GPP upside, but Manoa's getting a home game here. And even though OSP is the better athlete, you got to think that Manoa at least is going to give him something. He's definitely live here. OSP's fight IQ isn't the best. He throws, kind of wide rangey shots. He's very unorthodox. I think OSP still wins, sadly, but I do like Manoa as one of the lower priced fighters that you can get your hands on and not feel too bad about losing a decision. Let me see where he's priced at here. Can't even find him on here. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think I'm on the other side of the fence on this one a little bit.
Manoa's 7,800 there. I found it.
Yep, and St. Preux is 84. And I don't know. Manuel seems to struggle when people pressure him on the feet because he likes to be the guy who pressures. And I think St. Preux, he's a big, powerful guy, and I think he'll be able to give that pressure to Manuel that really puts him into an uncomfortable position. I don't see this going to a decision. Could it go into the third because both these guys are pretty durable? Yeah, and if it does go into the third, that's where Manuel wins. But he has to be durable enough to last there. St. Preux is a powerful dude. He hits hard. Personally, I think OSP wins this within the Vegas prediction of 1.5 rounds. I'm thinking he earns the KO victory before the 1.5. With that said, neither one of these guys are really safe cash plays. I'm not going to put my money into the OSP pie, even though I think he wins by KO, just because of the power that both these guys possess. I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is going to be a KO finish, but it could definitely come from either guy. For the price, if you do need a little salary relief, I think there's going to be enough value or enough volume from Manuwa to at least give you some points, because he is a pretty durable guy. It's going to take a lot to put him out. Even after a round and a half, I think he could give you, 30 or 35 points. And I know they're light heavyweights, but both guys, they can stand in the pocket and throw. So that's my take. I'm not going to have too many shares of either one, but it's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to watching on TV.
Yeah, 100%. Gonna look forward to watching this slugfest. I think the only way Manawa does really have a chance to win is by decision and overcoming all that OSP strength. Uh,
Right.
OSP should be able to back him down and smash on him, and not necessarily finish him, but early, but bruise him up. Beat him down. It's gonna be one of those things where it's clear that Manawa is gonna lose within the next minute or so. Uh, I mean, like once you start to see him fade, it's going to be really clear when the end is near. But
Yeah.
with that said, if he does happen to land one of those weird sort of uppercuts he likes to throw, or I don't think he has too. He's not. I mean, he's a more technical striker than OSP, but he's not very diverse. I mean, he's really just a glorified boxer.
Agreed.
Uh, and who knows? I mean, maybe he gasses out OSP. He is the one making the flight over to England. So, I mean, there's a chance that maybe cardio plays a bigger role here. But really, I mean, how can we? You can't really bet against OSP here. If you were betting in Vegas, I should say. For DFS purposes, I like Manawa, but I like OSP more to win.
Yeah, yeah. The price of Manuel is pretty attractive for someone that has good upside in this fight. Yeah, it's an attractive price to get you some salary relief for sure.
All right, next up we got Stefan Struve versus Daniel Omilanchuk. I think I said that one right. Uh,
That's pretty close.
Yeah, Omilanchuk. I even wrote it on my board like, "Oh, me, lawn, Chuck." Struve's kickboxing in length, I think, is going to frustrate Daniel. Otherwise, if Struve decides to let the bigger man get on the inside, then he's going to lose a decision like he did against Jared Rochal. But Daniel Omilanchuk actually lost a decision to Jared Rochal as well. And if you look at his record, especially since he's been in the UFC, Omilanchuk is like a decision machine, win or lose. He's got a decent finish against like Chris De La Rocha, but who the hell's that, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Struve, I mean, he's got way better experience. His last fight is a KO win, I think in May against Antonio Bigfoot Silva, which everyone's knocking out Bigfoot these days. But it's quality win after a rough start after coming back from that enlarged heart situation that Struve was dealing with. Uh, I think at 28, Struve still has a lot to offer here. I think that he does end up frustrating Omilanchuk and using his length to win this fight, but it's such a scary fight for DFS purposes because we're talking about two giant heavyweights that have no problems going to a boring decision, and I don't want any part of that in my lines. What's your take on this?
Yeah, Drew for me is one of my targets. I'm gonna call him Omi. I'm not even gonna attempt his name, but so Omi is just he's too short, and his grappling it's okay, it's improved, but Struve loves being on his back, and he's dangerous off his back. And if Struve's on his feet, it's too long, I think, for Omi to get inside. So I don't know. Struve has looked very improved since coming back. I mean, you touched on, he knocked out Bigfoot and everyone knocked him out. And I agree, but he looks like a better fighter. He looks like a smarter fighter, and he looks like he's actually learned how to use this reach advantage, which he didn't do so well before. I think he gets either if he doesn't get if it's not a decision, I think he can take him out late because Omi really gassed in that third round. And if Struve can keep his cardio up, I could see him. I could see him getting a late stoppage. And I think this is one of those fights where I think there will be enough volume to pay it off. So for me, Struve is a pretty safe cash play because I just don't see a route to victory for Omi.
Yeah, my only thing that got me off of the Struve by finish is the fact that Omalanchuk hasn't actually been finished. He's got all decision losses in his three losses, but I like you were saying. I mean, like it's hard to not pick Struve by some form of a finish. I think that the gas tank will be an issue, uh, and Struve is the younger, smarter fighter, and even though he's 7 feet tall, I think he is going to have the better cardio. My official pick is going to be Struve by late finish, but more than likely decision. I don't mind you putting him in cash. I actually, if I was focusing purely on cash, I'd probably have Struve in more of my lines than some of the other guys that are in his price range. He's at 8,500, and he's right between like a guy like Adriano Martins, who's got a really tough matchup, and then OSP, who we touched on against Manoa.
Yep.
Uh, Overall, though, I don't see a lot of GPP potential here in either fellow. I guess that's what mainly I should say I'm fading him for is GPP.
I agree with that.
Next up is the curtain jerker on the main card, and it's sort of an interesting matchup. I wish it was the matchup we were originally supposed to get, which was Arnold Allen versus Mirsad Bektik. But on 5 days' notice, we're getting Russell Doan. He's a 135er moving up to 45 to face Mirsad Bektik, who's 10-0 or 9-0, somewhere in there. Doan, he's on a bit of a losing streak. He's taking this fight basically for a paycheck. It's really tough because to me, Mirsad Bektik is one of the purest uh, prospects at 145 pounds. And so is Arnold Allen for that matter. That's why it was such a great original matchup. Now it's turned into a stomp fest for the guy who's highest priced out of everybody on this card. Mirsad Bektik uh, should be able to pressure and outlast anything that Doan feels like throwing at him early. I see Bektik just knocking him down, getting on top, and pounding him out pretty quick here in the first. What's your take on the curtain jerker for the main card?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, usually people coming in on short notice have nothing to lose, but Doan's on that 3-fight losing streak, and I think he does have something to lose here. You know, if he loses the fourth in a row, he's likely out of the UFC.
Yeah,
So there's
even
here,
even
which
even guys who give favors still get cut on short notice losses. Sorry, keep going.
right, yeah, and you know, a lot of these guys that come in, they have nothing to lose and they can just swing away. I don't think Doan can swing away here, and that you know he has to fight it like his career's on the line. So he's going to try to fight a smart fight. But what's he do? Does he grapple to Bektik? No way. He can't because Bektik's the better grappler. So yeah, I see absolutely no way that Doan wins. Now I'm going to probably be eating my words when Doan comes out and knocks him out in 30 seconds. But no, I'm
if
Doan.
if there was a
Doan
this would be the one. If there was a fight on this card to really just be a total asshole, this would be the fight.
yeah, this is our Brandon Moreno right here.
Yeah, this is the Moreno versus Smolka matchup. But man, Mirsad Bektik looks to me like a future champ. He's such a smart guy. You know, he's methodical, he's violent, he's powerful. And to me, Doan is a much smaller man who's, you know, a bit like, you know, he's a bit of a Gumby fighter. He can take some shots, he can give some shots, but I mean, in his own weight class, he's hardly competitive to move up in weight against a top prospect who you could consider in the top 20. He's not quite top 15, but he's definitely in that upper echelon. It's Bektik all day here, and I'm going to try to squeeze him into as many of my lines as I can, despite his price tag.
Yep, and on the GPP side, I'll have high exposure. I'm going to play one cash line, and I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to fit him in, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough for cash. All right, next up, Brad Pickett versus Yuri Alcantara. Brad Pickett coming in as the underdog, not by too much, but 8,300 on Alcantara, 7,900 on Brad Pickett, so pretty close to the median line. Personally, I like Pickett live for GPPs, but I sort of feel like Alcantara is going to roll a decision here. I just like Pickett's finishing ability, and even though we touched on this offline, how I think his chin is a bit diminished, it's not nearly as shot as some of the other guys on this card who are in a position to possibly win. What's your take here on Brad Pickett versus Yuri Alcantara?
Yeah, this is one of those fights that I think is going to be really exciting. I mean, Pickett has no problem standing in the pocket. It has years of wear and tear from standing in the pocket. He used to have an iron chin. Now I mean, he's still got a good chin, but it's you know, like we talked about earlier, it's not great, but he's definitely a durable guy. He's going to go to decision. I think it's going to be a lot of action. I'm taking Alcantara by decision, but for the price of 7,900, Pickett isn't a bad cash play. I mean, I think he's going to throw enough volume to where he's gonna put up some points if you want to go there for salary relief. I think he's one of my spots for my cash lineup that I'll have him in does win, it's likely by knockout. So you get pretty good upside from it as well. I don't see the knockout happening. I think Alcantara wins by decision, but the volume will be nice on both sides, I think.
Yeah, this might actually end up being fight of the night because both these guys don't mind standing in the pocket and just hitting till someone falls. Alcantara not as much, but if you kind of goad him into it, he's definitely game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just go ahead and put a flyer out there on Brad Pickett for GPPs. Alcantara, did you say you were okay with him being in cash, or what was your play on cash there?
I was actually going to put Pickett in my cash
Oh, okay.
quite possibly. I mean, the volume. He's been a loss. I think the volume's there, and the upside is always a knockout. So uh, we'll see how they work it out when I'm making them. But for the 7,900 price tag, I can definitely see him being in my cash line.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed about his price actually. I know this sounds terrible, but for value, I was kind of hoping Brad Pickett would be lower priced. I feel like him and like a guy like Mark Diakise, they're kind of swapped. I think that the newcomer should have been more in this position, and uh, Pickett should have. I guess Diakise is a favorite, but in terms of their matchup with their fight, I thought that Pickett should have been more in that price range than towards the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I agree. I was hoping he was going to be a little lower in the seven, but he's still under that 81 threshold to give
DK
you a little bit back.
DK did a really good job of taking all the value out of most of the guys where you would have value on a card like this.
That they did.
It's so difficult sometimes. Next up, we got Ian Entwistle versus Rob Font. To me, Font is a top 15 guy. I think for a second he was. He might still be, but Ian Entwistle's coming off of a loss to Alejandro Perez. And if you stuck around for our breakdown of Perez's last fight, I'm pretty sure we were spot on that whooping. Uh, for me, Font should win in a big way here. He's one of the he's up there in the top price, but I think personally for this card, Font should have been the number one priced guy. I'm going to have really major exposure to Font. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, completely agree. I think it's going to be pretty similar to all of their local fights. He's going to go for a leg lock. He's going to fail miserably, and Rob Font's just going to smash his face through the floor.
Exactly.
I mean, there's really no other way that it can go. Can Entwistle catch that leg lock? Sure, but I think Font's a little bit smarter than that, and he has a shitload of power, way more than Perez has. So it
Yeah.
won't take as long.
It's a strange matchup. Rob Font, I think, was originally he had a much higher ranked opponent, and I think Entwistle squeezed in, fill the need for, and plus he's a local guy, so it made it easier. But Rob Font's on a different level here. I got Font in a lot of my GPPs that I've already built for my dummy lines. I just made a point to plug him in. I think that this is going to be a big first round stop for him.
Yeah, agreed. And again, he's another one. If you can fit him into a cash line, do it because he's going to pay. But there's a couple of those guys on this card, and it's just hard. I think for me, the only guy I'm going with over 9,000 is probably going to be Bisping in my cash lineup, just because you're not fitting two of these guys in. So I'm going to take the 9,100 on Bisping, put him in my cash lineup, and then the rest of these guys are going to be more GPP. So Fox, I will have high exposure to in my GPP lines for sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's pretty much where I'm at on that one. Next up, we got Davey Grant, another local boy, going against Damian Stasiak. Grant's the favorite, but Stasiak is the one that's coming off of a first round finish. It was on that Dos Santos Rothwell card they did in Croatia, and it was against a guy in Felipe Pejic I've never even heard of, and I think it was his only fight in the UFC. It was like a one and done, or maybe he's got another fight coming up, but really a nothing fight there. Stasiak got the win. Davey Grant is coming off of a decision win over Marlon Vera after taking like 3 years off after losing in the tough finale to Chris Holdsworth. I was kind of surprised that the culmination of that much time off ended with only a decision win against a guy like Vera. I thought that in that fight, Grant should have easily finished him, but maybe it was that rust. And my take on this actually is Stasiak has some value here. I know Grant should win a decision, but I tend to think that if you're going to get beat down and have to take a guy who's going to lose a decision, Stasiak might be one of the guys you have to plug in. What's your take on this guy?
Yeah, I agree with that. Grant did look a lot better coming off that layoff. At least I thought his stand up looked really improved. But he's so big for this weight class, and it's tough because he likes to grind on you on the fence, but he doesn't have a lot of power for this weight class, which is weird. He's a big guy, but he'll land a lot of volume, but he doesn't really knock guys out that easily. I mean, Marlon Vera is a perfect example of that. He landed some what looked like really big shots on Vera over and over again. Vera just kind of stood there. Yeah, he got really really frustrated, made some stupid mistakes, had points deducted, and looked like an idiot. But
Yeah.
Grant couldn't put him away. I'm with you. I think Stasiak has some value because he's going to throw volume. He's going to land his punches when they're on their feet. I think Grant's going to take it to the mat and try to win it, with a ground and pound approach. Because I think that's his best path to victory. And I think he's going to get a pretty easy decision. But on the feet, Stasiak's definitely going to land some volume. So for 7,400, he's probably your best option, in my opinion, at some nice salary relief, especially in a cash lineup. I'm not touching Grant in anything. I just don't see the upside for 8,800 in cash or GPP. So I'm staying off Grant, and I'll probably have Stasiak in my cash lineup.
Yeah, this is kind of the shocking thing about the new scoring system. In the old scoring system, sometimes we could get a complete fight where both guys were below average money. And I think that this is the kind of fight that originally would have been like a 9,800 versus 9,600 matchup. But I just feel like Davy Grant's price is blown way out of proportion for this fight.
Yeah, the upside's not there to pay that price. It's kind of.
I mean, he's going to win a decision. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to a fight that could very well have a finish or just be another boring decision. Albert Tumanov versus Leon Edwards. I'm a big fan of Tumanov to win this fight. He had a 5-fight winning streak snapped by Gunnar Nelson, which it was pretty easy to predict that fight. I'm pretty sure when we did our breakdown on that fight, we were all over Gunnar. Tumanov is, he's got the big heavy hands. He's a smart guy. He's normally the better grappler, but when he goes up against someone who is like a more decorated grappler like Gunnar Nelson, it was really easy to predict his downfall and how he lost that fight. With that said, though, I think that he's the better overall fighter against a guy like Leon Edwards. Edwards loses to better grapplers. He I don't know how to describe Edwards. He has like flashes of brilliance, and then he has moments where he looks like he doesn't belong in the UFC. I got Tumanov in a big way here, even with this price tag. I don't necessarily think I'm going to go GPP crazy on him. I'm not seeing really a finish. It's going to be more or less him establishing top position, probably a lot of side control with a lot of elbows. There could be good volume in that, but uh, I'm really trying to find finishes on this card. Even though this is a terrible card, I'm still trying to win, and I don't know if the path to victory lies with one of these guys being in that number one lineup. What do you think?
I think I'm actually on the other side of the fence again on this one. I don't know. I think Albert Tumanov is, his boxing is great. His head movement's great. He does a good job of just barely slipping those big punches that are going to come from Leon Edwards. And I think he gets a TKO finish. Now, I don't think it's going to be early, but I think he finishes this fight. But the problem is, Leon Edwards is going to come out. I think Edwards is going to come out like a man on fire.
Yeah, he's got to. He's got to go crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's in his hometown. He's going to come out big. He lands big punches. I mean, he's got good power. So it's a dangerous fight for Tumanov. He's going to definitely have to weather that storm. But I think in that second or third, I think he's going to ultimately wear Edwards down and land a finishing punch. I'm going to go with early third that he finishes him. I really just I don't know. I don't think this goes to decision personally. I could be way off base on that, but Tumenov is just he's really good on his feet. His hands, his boxing is immaculate. So I think he finishes it with a big punch.
Do you have any GPP flyers on Edwards?
I might have one.
He's at 7,000.
Yeah, I know it's so low, and he's gonna come out. And, I might have one on both, but personally, I'm having actually fairly low exposure to this fight in general.
Yeah, me too.
Just the price for Tumenov at 9,200, with that real possibility that he could get touched early. I just don't. I'm not going to risk it this time around.
All right. Next up, we've got I guess you call it the Fight Pass headliner, since that's a thing the UFC likes to do these days. It's Danny Roberts, one of the best local boys out of England these days. 13-1 record, going up against Mike Perry, Mr. Destroyed every line from his last fight when he beat
this fucking guy.
Yes, exactly, this fucking guy. This fucking guy who goes to the weigh-ins and screams his head off and then somehow goes out and wins a slobber knocker against Hyun-Gyu Lim. God, it was one of the most mortifying things to watch from a DFS standpoint, because I mean, every one of our lines that night was like 4 wins going into that fight with Lim, who was the #1 favorite that night, and Perry just shit over all of our stuff. I mean, he just shit on everything.
I think I ended up tripling my money that night, but I mean, the amount of money I could have won.
Yeah, we could have taken down a GPP.
Fucking knocked out. Like, oh man, it was unreal.
Yeah. The crazy thing about him though is, even though he's got an 8-0 record and he just looks insane, I mean, they're all stops. It's all he does is finish guys with his fists. Yeah. I think he's got like one armbar finish in there, maybe a weird choke out, but I mean, he just beats guys down. He's such an enigma to me. With that said, though, I really like Danny Roberts' upside. Everything that he brings to the table is exciting. He's a fun fighter. He's long and rangy. He likes to throw exciting strikes. He's not afraid to throw spin and shit. But man, I'm so gun shy after what Mike Perry did to us last time. It's really got me a bit perplexed. What's your full take on this?
Yeah, I could say everything that I said last time. Roberts is the better fighter all around. He can fight anywhere better than Perry, and he's fought better competition than Perry. Just like last time, Perry doesn't do anything but box. It's not really that good. He has huge power, but he hasn't really fought anyone until he knocked out fucking Lim. But I still want to go just heavily on Roberts. I really do. But after how bad he screwed us last time, it's hard to do that. You have that recency bias just sitting right there in your head. I think the smart move is to take Roberts' price at 8,100 and just be like, hey, that's a really good price for Roberts, and play him. I'm not going to touch it in cash, but I think having pretty good exposure to Roberts is not a terrible idea here.
Yeah, they're both 8,100. It's the middle of the road fight in terms of pricing. What makes it a little bit more valuable for Roberts in your lineup is for me, is just the simple fact that he's a slight dog by Vegas standards, or excuse me, a slight favorite. And anytime you can get a favorite for even money against his opponent in DK, I mean, you got to take it. So I gotta take Danny Roberts here, even though I'm just cringing every time I click his name and put him into a line, because oh man, this guy Mike Perry, I don't even know what to think of him at this point. We got to see him get past this second fight and see what sort of stupid shit he says to Joe Rogan after the fight if he does win. It's so strange. Usually with a guy who has an IQ like this, he doesn't have a lot of fight technical, ability to back it up. Usually he just goes out there, fights on instinct, and wins or loses. But somehow this guy just wins. It drives me crazy.
And the Vegas prop of 1.5 rounds, the under is -150. So
oh geez,
I think that's telling you guys something. I mean, and I would bet that personally.
Yeah, I would too.
Pretty good prop.
it's probably
Yeah,
it's probably Fury's pick of the week.
I wouldn't doubt it.
In fact, I would make a bet on a bet if anybody is privy to what Luca Fury's betting this week. I don't mean to name drop here. I don't like to include others in the podcast, but this is kind of the bet that he would make.
Yeah, agreed.
Uh, all right, next up we've got Leonardo Santos versus Adriano Martins in a matchup between two Brazilians somehow fighting in England. It's strange how the UFC will do that sometimes. Santos is 4-0-1 in the UFC, and Adriano Martins is 4-1 in the UFC. His lone blemish was that crazy head kick knockout in his second fight against Cowboy Cerrone. But other than that, Adriano Martins has looked like a really strong. I don't want to call him a journeyman, but I don't want to call him a contender either. I feel like this guy beats the majority of that division. He might firmly cement himself in like the top 10, 11, 12 soon enough and actually hold that position for a while. I don't think he'll ever get a title shot, but Adriano Martins is somewhat the real deal. I mean, he finished Islam Makhachev. He got a split decision over Rustam Khabilov, and those guys are no joke. Leo Santos, on the other hand, he just got a first round stop against Kevin Lee, and I remember specifically how pissed off we were because we had a lot of exposure to Kevin Lee that night. It was supposed to be a big fight for him to establish himself and get back on track. Uh, Personally, I'm gonna have some GPP flyers on Leonardo Santos, but I feel like Adriano Martins should easily win this fight. What's your take here?
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup because it finally is kind of that grappler versus striker matchup, which there aren't many of those on this card. For one, um, Martins is obviously the way better fighter on its feet, but Santos brings in a pretty nice jiu-jitsu background, and he's going to try to drag this fight to the mat. If Santos can get it to the mat, if he can, Martins is in a world of trouble, and that really is the only path to victory. If it stays on the feet, Martins, I think, is going to finish it fairly easily. But Santos has stuck around, and he seems to keep winning. So, um, like you said, Santos is definitely the GPP play in my mind here. I think Martins is a decent cash option, but he's for 8,600. I'm looking at Screw at 8,500 personally.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, GPP flyers on Santos, I have no problem with it. If he can get it to the mat, that's a whole new world, and he can definitely finish it there.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that Santos should have some flyers, but if you're looking for I mean, if you look at the price right there, he's right next to Stefan Struve and Davy Grant, and we've already touched on Struve's value, and we think Davy Grant is probably the shittiest guy priced above 8,100. Uh,
Yeah,
I guess if I was torn between those two guys, somehow I built a value line and I'm staring at like 8,800. I'd rather take Martins and leave a couple $100 on the table. But if you're building that sort of a line, I'm not really a fan of it. I'm not.
yeah,
Well, next up, the curtain jerker for the entire card, the first fight of the night and the last fight for us. On short notice, once again, we got Lucas Sayevsky coming in against Mark Diakise. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that completely wrong. I know I'm saying Sayevsky right, though, even though it's spelled like Sajewski. Uh, yeah, he's stepping in on about 2 weeks' notice versus a newcomer in Diakise, who I was hoping this is the guy that DK would throw us a bone on. Uh, he's so high priced for being a newcomer, it scares me. And Sayevsky is a grinder. He's 13-2, but sadly, before he got in the UFC, he was 13-0. It makes it really hard to pick a guy who's desperate for a win against a young upstart who's undefeated and ready to prove himself as a top prospect. Uh, Sayevsky got armbarred by Gilbert Burns. Before that, he lost a tough decision. The UFC's really done him no favors in terms of matchups, and this is another situation similar to Russell Doan, where I think he's coming in, and even if he loses a short notice fight here, Sayevsky's looking at getting cut. Uh, I think that he does. I like Diakise in a big way. Uh, there's not a lot of information out there on him, but he's really good at getting the finish. Most of his wins are by finish. I like his upside, but I hate his price. What's your take on this here, Curtain Jerker?
Yep. So I'm gonna keep it short and sweet on this one. Everything you just said, I think is spot on. I see no way Sajewski or the poll wins this one.
The poll.
I think, yeah, I have no clue how to say it. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
Yeah, I think I can't say his name either, but Mark, I think he takes this one as well pretty easily too. And another prop that I think is a very good one at the under is plus 130 in the 2.5 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a betting man, that's another one under 2.5 rounds for plus 130.
Hey.
I would take that because I think this ends pretty violently, actually.
Thank God we're betting men.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I hate his price tag, but I've already put a couple of lines together where I squeeze him in. He's sitting at 9,000 even. You're not going to get a lot of guys above him to go in that line, but if you can, I would probably try to build a line where you take some of our value plays plus Daikise and Mirsad Bektik. Real big finish upside. It's going to be really violent. I see 100+ points being scored here, and despite his poor price tag, you got to try to go for the 100-point score here. All right. Yep. So that is our picks for UFC 204. As always, check us out on Twitter at Brandon Arcade, at Ridgers10, at DFS Prime Lineups. If you want to be a part of the discussion, follow at Gutlines. We'll plug you in, let you be a part of the chat for a few days, get a feel for what we do. If you were smart, you would time it to where you can pick up some UFC and some football picks, since we cover everything. Not to mention you get to squeeze in some of that playoff baseball and the start of the NBA season. I should say preseason, since that's all we're doing until about the 25th. And, I just want to touch a word on preseason sports. It's the devil. Why are you playing this crap? Why do people play this crap? And why do they make this crap for us to play? Because I'm still going to play it. It drives me crazy.
Sorry, Brandon. I'm a glutton for pain and losing my
Yeah.
money.
Why do we play this crap? I mean, like, we just keep playing preseason sports. And I'm thankful that they have not put out preseason hockey. I believe the season starts on the 12th. And that's why they finally released the lines. Yeah, big deal. Get a hold of us. Check us out. You got anything you want to touch on there, Ridge?
Yeah, I'm going to throw out a couple of plays that I think are going to be good for the NFL. For any of you guys who have actually lasted this long on the podcast. And this is all stuff that we can talk about in the prime room if you join us. But look, at quarterback, Brady is going to be insanely owned, I think, especially in cash. This never happens, but I could definitely see him being like 70% up this week. If you want to fade Brady and you really want to be able to fit some people into your lineups, because there's really not great value running backs anymore to help you get those big wide receivers. Look no further than Brian Hoyer, guys. You can laugh at me all you want. $6,000 on FanDuel. I'm all over Brian Hoyer. He has 300-yard upside, 2 touchdown upside, and right there, that's more than paying his price. That's able to take down the GPP. So look his way. And then at receiver, Steve Smith just keeps getting more and more targets. And he's 6,300, severely underpriced. He should definitely be about a $7,000 receiver right now. So he's a nice little salary relief for you guys. And those are the two I'm gonna give you. If you want more, join us in the prime rooms, and I'll be happy to help you out.
Yes, I will not be giving any football picks at this very moment, but I will give some football advice. Brandon Walsh not Brandon Walsh. That's a terrible name to bring up if anybody knows who Brandon Walsh is. No, but Walsh kicking for the Vikings. He's terrible. Come on, thank you. The Blair Walsh Project is terrible. All right, that's our time for this week, everybody. If you want to talk more, make fun of us, come hang out, just shoot the shit, give us a hang. We'll DM us. We will hook you up. Thank you so much for listening this week, guys, and have a wonderful weekend of betting on sports.
Later, guys.